What is up? What is up, party people in the place to be? It is your man, Sean Zittel, most definitely. And happy Sunday to everybody after a good weekend of championship boxing. No pay-per-view bouts, but a lot of world titles on the line over the weekend. Emmanuel Navarrete, Friday night, had almost a throwback to Friday Night Fights when ESPN had these wars on Friday nights, although usually those weren't for world titles, and this was between him and Liam Wilson. Navarrete getting away with a 24-second count in round 4, but he gets up and knocks out Liam Wilson. He's headed to Oscar Valdez. That should be another great fight in the pantheon of Mexican versus Mexican wars. And speaking of Mexican wars and Mexican warriors, Erica Cruz and Amanda Serrano added to the pantheon of great Puerto Rico versus Mexico rivalry fights. They put on a Fight of the Year candidate last night. Serrano became the undisputed featherweight champion. And then in the co-main event, Alicia Baumgardner becomes the first ever women's 130-pound super featherweight champion with a pretty dominant performance that included 2 knockdowns against Ellen Michalid excuse me on that pronunciation. That one's been tough on me all week. But just going to wait for some more people to get into the chat. And we'll start with Navarrete since he fought first on Friday night. And then and speaking of that Navarrete-Wilson fight, I think there's some parallels between that fight and the other world title fight coming up this Saturday at the same weight class, 130 pounds, O'Shaquie Foster taking on Rey Vargas. This was the first time Emmanuel Navarrete had to face a fighter that was actually his size, actually a little taller than him. And you saw he wasn't able to get away defensively with some of the mistakes he makes. He's so long and tall compared to these fighters at 122 in particular, and then at 26 too, that they couldn't make him pay. They weren't in punching range when he would punch from awkward long angles with his sweeping shots and his left uppercut and his right uppercut. Wilson, however, was always in range whenever Navarrete decided to open up with those long looping shots, and that's why Navarrete got countered and caught and dropped in round 4. But he still showed, his top class and gets the knockout over Liam Wilson. Really came on strong and found his offense beautifully in the last 3 or 4 rounds before he got Wilson out of there. But I say all that to say Rey Vargas is in the same situation this upcoming Saturday. He's always been the taller guy, 5'7", just like Emmanuel Navarrete. Always been the bigger guy at 122 especially. And then at 26, usually the longer, taller guy too. But at 130... And you know what? Hell, we'll go to the tail of the tape since we're getting there. At 130 pounds, for the first time I can recall, Rey Vargas will not be the bigger man. You see here, coming up from 126 against 130, 5'7.5" against O'Shaquie Foster, 5'8.5", 70.5-inch reach against 72 inches for Foster. Foster also at 29, younger than Rey Vargas at 23 years old. So, upset alert for sure. I said upset alert. I said the left hook for Wilson could spring a huge upset of Navarrete. He almost did just that in the 4th round. And I think it's upset alert in Texas this Saturday between O'Shaquie Foster and Rey Vargas. And Foster is a more athletic fighter than Liam Wilson, but we'll see what's going on. I'll touch more on Foster and Vargas in just a minute, or just a little bit later. OZ Boxing 22 says, "What's up, FightHype? What's up, OZ Boxing? Good to see you." First person we got in the chat. It's not huge names. It's just World Championship boxing over the weekend. So I'm not surprised that the chat's a little slow this morning. We're not fresh off the heels of a Tank and Ryan announcement. It was just good professional boxing over the weekend. So shout out. They robbed that kid. Which kid, OZ Boxing? You talking about Wilson? OZ Boxing 22 sounds like he thinks Liam Wilson got robbed. Khalid says Rey Vargas is actually 5'9", 5'10". I believe that, Khalid, because he just looks it. I mean, in the ring, and we'll see at the weigh-in with O'Shaquie Foster. How that really measures out. But I think Vargas, man, like Navarrete, one thing Vargas always got away with is pulling his chin straight back. And he's so tall and keeps guys on the end of his combinations. He'd reach down. I love Rey Vargas's body shots because anytime you see a tall guy that's proficient to the body, you get to see this long angle on the body shot, and he does that well. Finishes his combinations off, and then after he finishes his combination, he'd usually pull straight back. And against 122 pounders, they fall short. They're little guys. he pulls straight back against O'Shaquie Foster, he's still going to be in range, and he could get caught pulling out like that. And Mark Magsayo hurt him with the right hand. I think Foster will have the power to hurt him. Will he have the skills to consistently find the mark? That remains to be seen. Yes, OZ Boxing saying Liam Wilson with the long count. So, okay, let's jump into that fight then. Caleb said, B-side Sean, this may be the first live Z-Cap that I've caught. Well, shout out, Caleb. Thank you for joining, man. I hope you enjoy. We're not coming off huge fights, but these were very good championship level fights, and let's recap them. So, Navarrete, as you see, becomes a 3-time world champion. Every time, though, it's been the WBO belt, and people in the sport always joke around about how, cozy a relationship Top Rank has with the WBO, with Bob's orders, or, people have all kinds of acronyms for that. But nonetheless, Navarrete is a 3-division champion. He's made a hell of a career for himself the last 3 years since beating Isaac Dogbe. He was an underdog in that fight. Dogbe was undefeated and looking really good, like a bright young, emerging star from Ghana. But Navarrete now is fighting bigger guys, and against Oscar Valdez, I pick Valdez to beat him. If you think Liam Wilson's left hook caused problems when he opened up wide, what do you think Oscar Valdez's left hook is going to do to him? Potentially devastating if he catches him the same way Wilson does. And I think Valdez isn't as tall as Wilson, to be fair. He isn't. But Valdez is a better fighter than Wilson, more explosive. I think as big as Wilson is height-wise, Valdez probably still cracks a little bit harder, although Wilson definitely showed some pop too. And Valdez doesn't stand straight up. He's got good defense. He knows how to get underneath. I think Valdez will be able to get underneath those looping punches and come up with the hook. And now that I think about it, you know which fight I think that fight may very well resemble Valdez and Navarrete is this fight, Valdez and Berchelt. Yeah, I could see that fight going very much like this fight did. Although I think Navarrete's better than Berchelt, and I do think that'll be a tougher fight for Valdez than Navarrete is. Berchelt more awkward, or Navarrete more awkward with his offense than Berchelt. I think he's just a more dangerous guy than Berchelt is right now, and trickier, more unorthodox and tougher to figure out. But that said, Valdez was still the more explosive guy. He had the better defense, had the better game plan, is the more well-rounded, versatile fighter. He fought off the back foot, got inside, landed big hooks, he did it all that night. And I see Valdez being in a tougher fight than he was in that night, but still prevailing in another Mexican versus Mexican war like he did in that fight. That's just how I see that. Dane Sampson says, Sean, do you think Navarrete versus Valdez could be a fight of the year? Absolutely. I think it's a guaranteed barn burner. I think there's no way that the fans that show up that night, probably in Southern California and Las Vegas, maybe Arizona too, they'll love it. They'll love the action they get. Valdez, having that Olympic background, he's the better boxer. He's got faster hands and better defense than Navarrete. But Navarrete, it does still got that length and height on Valdez, and he's a thudding puncher. Even though he's coming up from 22, he still punches hard, and his uppercuts and his angles are hard to figure out. But with the way he opens up so wide, and Valdez with those more compact, sharp, explosive shots, I think Valdez will beat him. Oz Boxing 22 says WBO Bob's belt. Yeah, and I guess WBA became like the PBC belt, and then WBC is like we go to the highest bidder, and then the IBF is to their credit, the most strict with their rules, but they have some weird rankings sometimes. So, welcome to boxing. But Ray Vargas is definitely not 5'7", says Baby Kobe. Baby Kobe, I keep hearing people say that. He does look taller than me when I've seen him fight and when I've covered him, but that's what's listed. Hey, don't take my word for it. That's what's listed, on the PBC site. And while we're on that topic too, O'Shaquie Foster, who I think has a great chance of pulling off the upset this Saturday. But one thing about him, he's been the WBC mandatory for some time, and I got this annoying ad here. Forgive me, folks, but if you go through there it goes. Oh no. But if you go through his record, you wonder. I mean, this is a guy who's fighting 4-rounders, winning a majority decision in a 4-rounder just in 2018. 8-rounder by majority, 10-rounder, 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 10-rounder. He's only been in one sanctioned 12-round fight, and yet he somehow has been the mandatory for the WBC for the longest time. Part of me, I think he was with MTK before they disbanded, so, interesting stuff there. But Oshaki is the younger fighter. He's hungry. He's been waiting for his opportunity, and I think with his physical talent and size, with Ray coming up to 122, it could definitely be an upset. But there is a huge gap in level of opposition. I mean, Vargas deserves to be the favorite, beating guys like Tomoki Kameda, who was a famous champion in Japan for a long time. Mark Magsayo, a very dangerous, young, undefeated Filipino when he beat him. Ronnie Rios is a tough guy. So he's been in numerous 12-round title fights. That's a huge advantage for Ray Vargas coming into that fight. He deserves to be the favorite. And let's take a look at the odds. But Foster Vargas odds. But I feel like at these odds, and I think they're pretty big. About 3-1 for Vargas. He might be worth a run for your money. Kind of hard to find those exact odds right now, but let's see. All I'm seeing is 68-32. But this isn't a betting show, so we'll keep it moving. But back to Navarrete and Wilson. He was fortunate to get that 24-second count. Some people asked me in the chat during the fight, did I think like Wilder Fury, did Fury get a long count? I did think Fury got a long count in fight number 3 on that second knockdown in round 4. So we've seen some long counts before in boxing. And then Navarrete, to his credit, spit out that mouthpiece veteran tactic, did a little Diego Corrales against Jose Luis Castillo, a little Bernard Hopkins trickery where, you bend the rules a little bit when you need to come out on top, and kind of credit to Navarrete for that. Not a credit to the referee for allowing it to happen, but credit to Navarrete for his veteran savvy, buying himself time. And then he found the mark with his combinations, and he has very good unorthodox timing. He's not the fastest guy, but he's got good timing on his punches. Just when it's hard to get his rhythm and timing down. He's an unorthodox guy who throws from unorthodox angles, and he's heavy-handed. So you gotta love Navarrete. There's nothing to really dislike. He's a very TV-friendly fighter. Always been a humble enough guy when you talk to him. But if you're Liam Wilson and his team, you feel like you got hosed fighting in America, and you have a right to feel that way to a degree from the tricks with the scales all the way to with the controversy around the scales into the long count. If you're Liam Wilson, you definitely knew you were fighting on the road Friday night. Bones13 says Navarrete. I can say, but hold on, let me drink a little water. Get my mouth. Hold on. Navarrete. There you go, Navarrete. But Dane Sampson said Valdez is more explosive than Navarrete. I do think absolutely he's more explosive. While staring at the ref, says Angel Perez. Right, the ref, right, he spit out the mouthpiece and literally looked at the ref, and then the corner gave the instructions they're not supposed to be allowed to give in that moment. They were fighting in Glendale, Arizona, where it's all Mexican and Mexican-American fans. Top Rank has a big fight lined up with Oscar Valdez, kind of like in the main event on DAZN, Serrano and Cruz. I'll get to that fight in a little bit. I watched that fight with no volume on. I don't agree with the final CompuBox punch stats. We'll go over that. CompuBox had Cruz only outthrowing, and she set a record with 968 punches thrown in a 10-round fight with 2-minute rounds. Insane. But I didn't see what CompuBox saw. I thought Cruz out threw Serrano by a lot. I think the connect percentages were very close, maybe a little in favor of Serrano, or maybe not. But CompuBox had them only 20 punches apart. I saw Cruz throw a lot more punches last night than Serrano did. But we'll get to that later. So yeah, I gotta go with Marky Love said, join the Undisputed server on Discord, brother. It's a party in there. Thank you, Marky. So leave a link in the chat to the Discord. I've never been on a Discord for nothing. I'm loving the Undisputed game. I've been loving streaming it. So drop that in the chat. Baby Kobe said, I don't even look at CompuBox because it's never accurate. I'll say this, baby Kobe. There's times I do feel it's accurate. I go back and I watch it, and I go, yeah, that's pretty much what my eyes saw. But then there's been certain fights. Porter and Spence was one. I was there ringside at Staples Center, and yeah, you guys know I'm cool with Sean. I love Sean, but I am very good at putting that to the side. For example, I had Crawford beating Sean. I kind of knew Crawford was going to stop Sean late in that fight. So I don't let that get in the way. But Spence and Porter, they had Spence way outlanding Sean halfway through that fight, and that was bullshit. That fight was pretty much even halfway through. And so, yeah, while I'm talking about it, let me get to the punch stats for Cruz. I'm kind of going all over the place here, but you guys don't seem to mind. So final punch stats last night for Cruz and Serrano. Cruz setting a record at 968 punches thrown, 949 for Amanda Serrano. There's no way she only threw... If you watched that fight last night, there's no way Cruz only threw 19 more punches than Serrano. There were rounds where Cruz literally threw every second of the 120 seconds. And Serrano, meanwhile, was not trying to go punch for punch with Erica Cruz. She was trying to sharpshoot. She was trying to pick her shots. So there's no way that I think CompuBox was accurate in these final numbers. They did say that Cruz landing 202 punches to 257 for Serrano. So Serrano outlanding her by CompuBox. But they did say Cruz had a record high punches landed on Serrano. And to move on to that fight, what a great fight it was. What a great fight it was between these two warriors. They really added to the Mexico-Puerto Rico rivalry. Their fight deserves to be in the pantheon of the great fights in that rivalry. But in Wardell's Warped Speed says Serrano Cruz was a draw for me. Great fight. I agree. I feel like it was a draw. I would have been okay with Cruz getting the win. And I would liken Cruz's performance last night to, in sports they say it's not about how you win, it's about winning, right? And yes, was Serrano the more technically sound fighter? Yes. When she landed shots, were they prettier to look at, cleaner, sharper? Yes. When Cruz landed, they were winging punches. She's punching with her head down, sometimes not even keeping her head up, but head down, punches looping, and what? They're landing. And as awkward as her head movement was and as ugly as it looked, a lot of times Serrano was missing the mark trying to sharpshoot, especially in the first half of the fight. She got more accurate with her counter shots, punching in between Cruz's punches in the second half of the fight. She hurt her really badly in the 6th round, I believe. I'm trying to remember the shot. She placed it. It may have been a right hook, I think, that she placed in between Cruz, and Cruz had to retreat to the ropes, and she was hurt. That was the biggest moment of the fight. No knockdowns, but Serrano did hurt Cruz at some point. But in sports, it's not about how you win. It's just about winning. It could be ugly. Let's talk football. Maybe you won the game with a bunch of field goals. Your offense didn't do shit. They didn't score a touchdown. But maybe you managed to kick 2 field goals, and then on special teams you blocked a punt, like my Niners did against the Packers, right? I mean, the Niners are out of the playoffs. That sucks. I'm a little sad on Sunday because no more 49er football. But the Niners, they beat the Packers off a blocked punt in Lambeau last year. The offense didn't do anything. They never scored a touchdown. It was ugly. The definition of an ugly win. But they won. And Cruz and Serrano, part of me feels like it wasn't pretty. Cruz had her head down half the time she's landing. She's throwing these looping shots. Serrano is landing cleaner and prettier, but it's 1-3. Cruz is getting off 3 of them sloppy hooks and rattling Serrano around, and then Serrano's getting that one clean counter in. But I feel like Cruz out-hustled her, and I forget what CompuBox says. I feel like she hit Amanda Serrano more than Amanda Serrano hit her. But there's no way she was going to get a draw or a close fight in the Garden. You saw DAZN already was ready to roll out the rematch that will be a great fight between Taylor and Serrano. And I'm not saying Serrano got a hometown decision or nothing like that, but I am saying I think the fight was definitely closer than the judges have it. I don't think CompuBox's stats were accurate. And I think Erica Cruz isn't getting enough credit because it didn't look pretty. It didn't look pretty. But if you're punching and it's landing, and you're punching her more than she's punching you, then maybe you deserve to win the fight or get a draw. That's just how I feel about it. And Serrano at 34 has already proven herself as one of the all-time greats for Puerto Rico, one of the all-time greats in women's boxing. But I've been saying this the last couple fights. She's getting hit more. She's entering her mid-30s, And usually the lighter a fighter, I mean, this has changed in the last 10 to 15 years with sports nutrition and everything. Fighters like Pacquiao, who once would have aged in their early 30s, late 20s, were able to keep going into their late 30s and so on and so forth. But Serrano is getting hit more, and that was a very close fight last night. It definitely wasn't 8-2 or 7-3 like the judges had it. I gotta favor Taylor again in that rematch. And again, Serrano, man, I love her style, and I don't think she's in her peak anymore. She's not past it. She's not, anywhere near shot, nothing like that. She's still one of the best in the business, but I do think she's slowing down. And even though Katie Taylor's actually, I think, a year or two older than her, I expect Taylor to win that rematch. And it was a hell of a fight, but to me, the fighter of the night was Alicia Baumgardner. And I would favor Baumgardner head-to-head against Serrano right now if they were to fight. I know Baumgardner, Serrano sets a great pace when she's the aggressor, and Baumgardner does fight in spurts a little bit. And I think part of that is stylistically, she's Baumgardner throws bombs. Canelo Alvarez and Tank Davis, in the same way, are economic with their punch selection. They're not going to fight 3 minutes of every round. And I think part of that is it's harder to throw 60, 70, 80, 90 punches around when you're really sitting down on a majority, 90% of your shots. And she does, kind of like Tank and Canelo do. So they're not going to throw 70, 80, 90 punches around. They're looking to place the bombs. And I think punching with full oomph on everything, not arm punches, not tap, tap, bang, bang, but really every punch is boom, 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 putting your ass muscles into it on every shot. You'll gas out a little quicker fighting like that. It's a product of the style. But I thought Baumgardner, she looked elite last night. The gas, you can't. I'm not too concerned about her gas tank because she went up against the woman with the best gas tank, one of the best gas tanks in the business in Mikaela Mayer. Mikaela Mayer sets an incredible pace. She doesn't get tired. She's pretty relentless. And Baumgardner had enough conditioning to win that fight. So, I think she'd be a little more well-conditioned for a bigger fight. She knew she would win this fight, essentially. I mean, you can never underestimate anyone, but she was a big favorite in this fight. Got 2 knockdowns in the third. Mikaela had an amazing chin. Landed some shots, too. She got awesome combinations on Baumgardner, but those 2 knockdowns in the third got her respect. And one wrinkle that Baumgardner added to her game, we knew she had the up jab. We knew she had the athleticism and the footwork and knows how to have a good defense and walk you into the right hand. And again, the up jab. But what she showed last night was a new body attack. And her trainer, Tony Harrison, is usually known as a boxer, hand speed, skilled guy. But if you go back and watch Tony Harrison's rematch with Jermell Charlo in the middle rounds when he was doing beautiful work before Charlo won by knockout, he was throwing a beautiful short little left hook to the body, and I thought Baumgardner, she added that to her repertoire. That's something I didn't see from her in the Mayer fight. She added in a body attack, and so she's only getting better. OZ Boxing 22 says she's always in danger of punching herself out. And I Served 88 says Baumgardner needs to work on her cardio. Baby Kobe says Alicia's worst problem is her stamina. So it's a consensus that is all fighters have flaws, and that's the biggest one that's sticking out about Alicia right now. But I you guys are right, but it held up good enough and down the stretch against Mayer to pull that fight out. So I do think she's never going to be a girl that's going to fight hard all 10 rounds, but I think she's a girl that catches second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth wins. And she has the defense and the feet and the jab to when she needs, because trainers will always tell you, the old school ones, the jab is your best friend when you're tired. She's got the jab and the footwork to when she needs to take a breather, she can buy herself time fighting in that style. Warped Speed said, for being a brother of the Scarlet and Gold, there is always next year. Thank you, man. Great fight this weekend, but Richardson Hitchens was a standout. Thank you. You are so good to bring up Richardson. What a sharp jab he displayed throughout that fight. I mean, a piston. He pelted Bauza. That word, pelt. He pelted him with a piston jab. And I like that he stepped it up as the fight went on, because early on, he was just doing enough to win the rounds. And when you look at the hand speed and how sharp the kid is, this is the Mayweather effect a little bit. And the man's behind me. He deserves his claim to TBE. He is one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. But his effect on these young American fighters is they don't like combination punching is a little bit of a lost art. Everyone wants to be the sharpshooter, and at the most they're throwing 2 or 3 at a time. You know, they'll sharpshoot you with 2 or 3 shots, but no one is doing the Oscar De La Hoya, Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, opening up with true combination punching. And that's one thing, not just from Richardson Hitchens, but from Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney, we'd like to see. They're very, you know, hit and don't get hit. And that Mayweather era and ideology has been planted firm in them. And it's a hard ideology to argue with when you see the results. But I will say combination punching has become a little bit of a lost art. And the American fighters through our amateur system always were the best combination punchers. So, you know, just me saying what it is. Boxing Nerd saying Baumgardner was on her period. You guys need to chill. That's kind of funny. So yeah, I loved Baumgardner's performance in the end. I hope her and Mayer have that rematch for sure. I think they will. And that's gonna be even the first fight was a really good high speed chess match. Second fight's probably gonna be a war because Baumgardner's talking knockout, and Mayer I think knows when she goes back and watches the tapes, knows that I can compete boxing with her, but I'm gonna come up short again. If I box at range with Baumgardner, you know, she needs to take a page out of Erica Cruz's book. And that's big, but, you know, more sharp than how Cruz fought. You know, more, you know, elbows in, more textbook. But still, she needs to take a page out of Cruz's book and be relentless. High risk, high reward. By being more relentless and coming at Alicia nonstop, she could get knocked out. But it gives her the best chance to win and to overwhelm and to test that gas tank of Alicia Baumgardner. That's going to be a great rematch. I still got to give the edge to Baumgardner because she's the champion. The boxer against the aggressive fighter tends to be the one who can make the adjustments better. But Michaela Mayer is a dog, and I think she will make adjustments too. I think that fight number 2 will be even better than the first fight, which was, you know, more high speed chess than a war. Frankie Sr. said, "Yo, man, you should apologize to Tank. Maybe he will let you get an interview." There's nothing between, you know, me and Gervonta. I've talked to him off camera a couple times. So, you know, it is what it is there. But may the best man win between him and Ryan Garcia. I favor him to win that fight. But that's a dangerous fight for him, to be sure. So, Baby Kobe said, I miss Hitchenson's fight. I fuck with him. My problem with Hitchens is I don't know about his chin or power, right? That remains to be seen, but he's a fast, sharp guy, skilled guy, very good boxer. You know, moving forward, he's definitely a player at 140. Let's see a rematch versus Mayer then if Baumgardner clearly won, says Cisco E. I mean, that was a very razor-close fight. I just thought Baumgardner pulled it out. I thought she won that. I think I scored the fight 6 rounds to 4 for Baumgardner. It was a very close fight. Her defense was just a little bit better. She was a little bit slicker and just a slight step ahead in what was a really good chess match. Fight number 2, Michaela's got to make it less of a chess match. And I think fight number 2 will be actually better than fight number 1, which was a good fight. So, man, we've already kind of covered everything, haven't we, folks? And it's just been 30 minutes. So, all right, chat. Anything you want to throw at me? Kind of. Again, Oshaki Foster, Ray Vargas. Vargas deserves to be the favorite, but I do think it's upset alert. Although it's a huge jump in competition for Oshaki Foster, but the eye test tells me he has a good chance of pulling it off. Yeah, and then Baumgardner, you know, I'd favor her right now against Serrano, but her and Katie Taylor, that's a tough fight for Baumgardner because Baumgardner's been facing fighters, Michaela Mayer, Mia Khalid, after she got caught, didn't keep just coming in like that. Terry Harper and Michaela Mayer, these were fighters that came to her and kind of played into, you know, not played into her hands, but she's a natural counterpuncher boxer. Fighting a fighter like Katie Taylor, who either matches or exceeds her hand speed and has good feet and throws combinations with her hand speed. Boxers tend to give other boxers problems. I'm curious how Baumgardner would go about fighting Katie when Katie, might actually be faster than her hand speed wise, and Katie's going to move off and move around the center of the ring. She's not just going to come to her. So that'd be a new problem for Baumgardner to solve. That'd be a hell of a fight. Jason Smith said, I know this is off topic, but do I think there will be another fight night? Good question, Jason. I don't know. I imagine if this Undisputed game does really strong sales numbers and brings in a lot of revenue, that EA would look at it and go, okay, maybe we should make another boxing game. But I'm not expecting Undisputed to do that. I'm expecting Undisputed, like the sport of boxing, to have more of a hardcore niche following, a dedicated but niche following. I'm not expecting Undisputed to compete with the NBA 2Ks and the FIFAs and MLB The Show. Hopefully it does. Hopefully by the time it releases on PlayStation 5, it can get, maybe a Floyd Mayweather licensing, slap him on the cover, and then it moves millions of units. But I think Undisputed's going to have a very healthy shelf life of a very competitive, dedicated scene, but it's not going to be a huge scene. And because of that, I don't think it'll do the numbers that makes EA Sports say we have to make another boxing game. But I appreciate the question, Jason. Chris Lovejoy versus Antonio Zepeda. Who do I got on the Floyd undercard? Ooh, good fight. I'll give the edge to Zepeda. He's younger. Maybe I'm a little biased because Antonio's such a good kid, such a nice young man. Got injured playing college football, late to the game in boxing, but good guy. I'll give the edge to Antonio. Is Oshaki the dude who Shakur always said was really good? Caleb, good question. He might be. We might be thinking about Keyshawn. I don't know if he said he's really good. They went back and forth on Twitter because Oshaki became Shakur's mandatory once Shakur beat Oscar Valdez. So Oshaki said, you're ducking the fight. Shakur said, please, like I would duck anybody. And so yeah. Dane Sampson, great question. Oz Boxing saying it's only on PC, no chance. Oz Boxing 22, it is going to come out on console eventually. It's just early access on PC. But Dane Sampson with an awesome question. Who would have won in their primes? Marquez versus Eric El Terrible Morales. My man El Terrible right behind me right there. And love Eric El Terrible Morales. Maybe along with Bernard Hopkins and Sugar Ray Leonard, Salvador Sanchez, my favorite fighter of all time. And so you know where I'm going with this. I give the edge to Eric El Terrible Morales. They were slated to fight in late 2000. So when for that fight, when Morales fought Barrera the third time in November of 2004, Top Rank made an offer. This was reported by Dan Rafael back in the day. So Pacquiao and Marquez have that draw in fight number 1. Top Rank then goes to Marquez and says, here's $750K to fight Eric Morales on pay-per-view, right? Marquez turned it down, and Morales winds up fighting the third fight with Barrera, came in overconfident, lost, and then atoned himself in 2005 by beating Pacquiao. Awesome. But anyways, Marquez turned down $750,000, which at the time was a huge career-high payday. To be fair to him, someone like Barrera for the same fight was going to get a couple million. So he was getting shortballed, but he didn't have a quarter of Barrera's accomplishments up until that point. So of course Barrera was going to make more money. So Marquez turned down that fight when it could have happened in 2004. And if that fight would have happened in 2004, I think Morales would have won because Marquez was still getting better at 2004 and Morales was a finished product. And Marquez is a counterpuncher. He doesn't have the jab El Terrible had, and El Terrible had underrated legs. He was long and tall against Marquez at 130. And I think Morales, with the jab and the underrated footwork, he would have been able to do enough to offset Marquez's counterpunching. And then Morales can punch in between your punches and exchange with the best of them. So it's not like Marquez. Go back and watch Marquez when he fought Barrera. Those exchanges were pretty even, and Barrera was starting to fade in his career up until that point. And still in '07 with a fading Barrera, he dropped Marquez on a right hand and didn't get called. The ref didn't call the straight right hand that dropped Marquez, and then he hit him when he was down. But I think in 2004, when Marquez turned that fight down, Morales would have won. Anytime after that, '06, '07, '08, 2010, yeah, Marquez would have won. But Morales was that dude. Exactly, Don Julio, exactly. So... happy Big Sunday. Thank you, the stars aligned. Don Julio, is there talks of Serrano versus Cruz 2? Absolutely not. Serrano Taylor 2 in Dublin, Ireland, May 20th. Book it. DAZN already had it booked no matter what. So, Braden Lowry says Undisputed on Xbox One or only PS5. Undisputed will be out on Xbox and PS5, but it's only out on PC computer gaming for now, for early access. But it will eventually be on Xbox and PS5. Foster was a 2012 Olympian, not to forget. Oh, great point, Dan Sampson, and I did forget that. Sonia Dumas says Mayweather retired, who cares? Yep. Good to see you, Sonia, in the chat. Alright, so, Ryo versus Lil B-Hop. If they both show up like they did in their last fights, I'm going to give the edge to Ryo because Colbert, at his best, when he's firing on all cylinders, he's a slick, speedy guy, but he wasn't too slick against Hector Garcia. And Ryo's a puncher, and if he's not on his game defensively, then I think Ryo can hurt him to the body. But then again... Colbert is a better boxer than Ryo Valenzuela. Colbert looked really good against King Tug and then just shit the bed against Hector Luis Garcia. So that's a pick'em fight. I think Colbert's definitely the faster, more skilled guy, but his defense wasn't on point that last fight. And if it's not on point this fight, this kid Ryo can really punch. He has an extremely leaky defense, does Ryo, but he could really punch, and he's a good body puncher too. So we'll see. Oh, Sugar Ray Leonard knocks out Terrence Crawford in the 6th round, about to drop. Check it out, everybody. Baby Kobe said, Colbert is called Lil B-Hop? Since when? Laughing my ass off. So, Baby Kobe, funny. I was speaking to Eric Morales. I was covering his fight when Danny Garcia retired him. When Danny Garcia knocked him out with a left hook in Brooklyn. And so I'm in the audience, and everyone's telling me, oh, you do interviews? You do interviews? You got to interview him. You got to interview him. And they kept pointing to this little kid. He was a little kid at the time. And they said, this is Lil B-Hop. This is Lil B-Hop. This is Lil B-Hop. And it was a young Chris Colbert. And he was all the buzz in New York, all the buzz in Brooklyn. He's from Brooklyn. He was that dude coming out of Brooklyn. So his original name was Lil B-Hop. And then eventually he forms a relationship with Deion Sanders, and Deion bestows the Primetime moniker on him. But he needs to go back to being Lil B-Hop. Lil B-Hop was piecing guys up, and Primetime dropped the ball against Hector Luis Garcia. That could have been him earning millions of dollars against Gervonta Davis on pay-per-view if he won that fight, Let's see here. Great analysis. If you ever get a chance, please slide through to Richard Steele's gym. So, yeah, guys, I don't want to hold everyone too long today. We go ahead into about 40 minutes. I want to thank everyone who hopped in. Any last minute questions, please feel free to get them in. Dane, I'll read your comment. Dane, I think why Top Rank has the top prospects is because he secures the Olympians, while Al and the PBC can't, since Top Rank offers so much money to the Olympians. Right, I have heard that they give an exorbitant signing bonus, and that'll help you get guys to sign on. Let's see. Don Julio says, I have a feeling Undisputed isn't even going to reach console. I think so, man. I think so. I feel very confident in that. I don't see why not. Maybe you're right, though. Maybe it won't make it to physical retail. You might be right about that. It might only go so far as to be a downloadable game, which would suck. I want a physical release of the game with a box art and disc and everything, but I could see it only being download only. We'll see. Caleb said, "Are you playing Undisputed today?" Deontay Mayweather. I'm gonna take a little break from streaming Undisputed. I get I get the sweats playing that shit in front of everybody. I'm undefeated on the stream, so like I'm very cautious about finally. I know it's gonna happen at some point. I'm gonna lose a fight live on the channel, but I just don't want to right now. My boy Steve, longtime childhood friend. He's busy with 2 jobs. He'll finally get to kick it today. I just want to play the game with him today. But we do got a video dropping of me playing Terrence Crawford with Sugar Ray Leonard. That's going to drop soon on the channel, so check that out. Dane Sampson says Valdez beats everyone in his division. Let's see. What do I think about Garcia Tank being a catchweight fight, says UL. I think that benefits Tank. I think that Garcia at 140 pounds he looked very big against Javier Fortuna at 140, very strong. He looked like he rehydrated. He looked like he's more natural and strong at 140 these days than at 135, which makes sense. He's a very tall kid who's growing into his man strength. So I think 136, it's basically a lightweight fight. And it favors Tank, and Tank is doing what A-side fighters tend to do, and that's leverage, their advantage in being the A-side. But so I think that at 36, that favors Tank. I think Tank will win the fight. I think Tank, being in near about a dozen world title fights, from Pedraza to Barrios to Isaac Cruz to Santa Cruz, he's yet to be a unified, do that thing, but his resume is actually good, and he's beaten a slew of good fighters. We want to see the Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson test. We want to see the ultimate test, and Ryan Garcia is a great test too. But he's beaten a lot of good tests thus far, and I think fighting a myriad of styles and legitimate top pros gives him a big edge and experience here against Ryan. And Ryan has really only gotten his feet wet at the top level with a past it Fortuna and Luke Campbell, who's a good fighter but never actually won a world title. So, all that said, Ryan could walk Tank into a hook. Tank is the smaller guy. Anytime Tank loads up and is in punching range, he is also there in the punching range of Ryan Garcia. And Ryan, has all the things you can't teach in terms of hand speed and punching power and size. So Ryan is a big live dog. Someone's getting knocked out in that fight, and it could be Tank. But I think Tank will win that fight because I think he'll take his time. He won't worry about losing early rounds to Ryan, and he'll download data early in the fight. He'll want Ryan to shoot out that check hook a couple times and get a look at it, figure it out, and then move accordingly. I expect Davis to catch Ryan at some point in that fight and win the fight by knockout. He could get knocked out in that fight for sure. Wouldn't be shocked if that happens, but I get the edge to Tank. Wouldn't Ryan be the best Tank has faced, honestly, says Triple Lex. I think so. I think he is the most dangerous opponent, but not the most accomplished opponent. Tank has fought guys who've won world titles and fought for world titles, and Ryan has done neither. So he's not the most accomplished, decorated guy Tank has fought. But yeah, when he gets in the ring, that will be the most dangerous guy I think Tank has been up against because of the speed, the size, and the punching power. That alone makes him very dangerous, Ryan Garcia. So yeah, that's how I see that. And on that, keeping it real. You have us confused with FightHub, keeping it real. FightHub and FightHype, they were the ones that promised the GGG Canelo tickets, not us. So just to clear that up. So yeah, who would have won between Pacquiao and Whitaker? Oof. That's a fuck, man. What a fight. What a fight. That's a tough one. I mean, my boxing brain is eager to say Whitaker, right? But Pacquiao was a special force in those Alex Ariza days. I don't know, man. That's a good fight. I'd have to take a half hour and watch some tape. And I mean, my off top, I favor Whitaker. He's just so great defensively, such a great boxer. But Pacquiao is Pacquiao. So I guess off top I'd give the edge to Pernell Whitaker. But Pacquiao was a force of nature. L-Dub Boxing was good, brother. Equanimous, did I say that right? Says Ryan slows down later rounds and gets caught by Tank. Ryan, though, should take advantage. Don't punch yourself out. Don't go crazy. But when Tank's giving away early rounds, take them. Make sure you bank them. Make sure you take them. And pace yourself. Because when he's only throwing 20, 25 punches around, you don't got to overwork yourself to get the round. Just doing, you get the round. And Ryan, for him, it's always the left hook. But in this fight, it could be the right hand if he uses it more. To me, to my eyes, Ryan has a powerful right hand, an explosive right hand. He doesn't use it that much, and he has no jab. But, the left hook is known to land against the southpaw, but to me, against the southpaw, the best punch is always going to be the straight right hand against the southpaw. And Ryan should use that against the southpaw. And when Tank's trying to download that data, and he's giving away rounds early, and he's looking to figure out that check hook from Ryan shouldn't give it to him too much. Touch him with the straight right hand. Touch him with the straight right hand. And then in the second half of the fight, when Tank is maybe behind on the cards and he does what he does against Barrios, he says, all right, time to go and get you now. That's when you can check him with the hook. But don't throw it out there early on in the fight when it's falling short and he's figuring it out. Touch him. Just touch him. Touch him. Throw the straight right hand instead. And then when he's coming after you and he's coming to get you in the second half of the fight, that's when he could walk into something. I think that's Ryan's path to victory. Stay composed and poised and patient in the first half. Win those rounds because Tank essentially gifts them to you. But don't go crazy on the left hook early. Save it for when Tank turns up the aggression in the second half of the fight. That's Ryan's path to victory. I still pick Tank. Eric B, I agree with you. Eric B says he doesn't jab, and Tank is going to be setting traps all night. I agree. Tank's ability to feint is going to be huge in this fight. Ryan doesn't feint like Tank. Who would have won between Triple G and Dmitry Pirog? I'll go Triple G. Triple G was an animal. Eric B said, Purnell, stop it. Come on, Eric B. Pacquiao, come on, man. Manny's Manny. Like I said about Cruz and Serrano, is Manny as technically sound as Pernell Whitaker? No, but you know damn well there's a method to that madness. He makes that awkwardness work for him. Someone like Pernell, Marquez, Mayweather, they're going to take advantage. They're going to take advantage of him being off balance and coming in crazy. But then at the same time, Marquez got put on his ass 4 times. Mayweather won a unanimous decision, but he got hurt twice in that fight by straight left hands by Pacquiao. So, even the best counterpunchers and defensive fighters, Pacquiao made their legs do a couple funny dances. So even Pernell, as great as he was, Pacquiao with that speed and that left hand, he would land on Pernell too at some point. That'd have been a hell of a fight. Is Sugar Shane Mosley a top 3 lightweight of the last 30 years? Absolutely. In my eyes. When we go lightweight, see the problem, Mayweather and Pacquiao had pit stops at lightweight. That was by far Mayweather's most unimpressive run was lightweight. He had the 2 tough fights with Castillo, and then he looked beautiful against Philip Endo. But then he was more dominant at 140. Pacquiao just beat up David Diaz and left the division. Jose Luis Castillo was a great lightweight in my opinion. But Sugar Shane Mosley easily was a top 3 lightweight. He might be a top 3 lightweight all time. The 3 lightweights that come to mind when I think of the best lightweights I can see on tape is Roberto Duran, Pernell Whitaker, and Sugar Shane Mosley. So he may be a top 3 lightweight. And I know the resume wasn't nothing. He never unified. He beat Philip Holiday. But the eye test doesn't lie, man. He was absolutely special at lightweight. Bivol or Ward? I'd have gave the edge to the Ward that fought Kovalev in the rematch, but I don't know, that'd been a very tough fight for Andre. I just think Ward, the way he showed up in that second Kovalev fight, he was so complete. Inside, outside, defense, slipping and making the guy pay. Great jab. Ward was a problem that night in that rematch against Kovalev. Now the Ward that fought that first fight against Kovalev, I think Bivol would beat him. But yeah. Julio Cesar Chavez was lightweight, indeed. You are right, UL, and you got to put Chavez in the top 5. Thank you for reminding me. Although I think some people feel that Chavez was even better at 130 than 135. But, he was a great lightweight at 135 as well. UL, you are correct. You got to put Chavez up there with the best of the best that ever did it at 135. Weedy Gonzalez says Ward and Mosley was on the juice. I don't think Ward, but we know Mosley was. But we don't. A lot of these guys that never popped may have been on the juice, man. Sugar Shane is an all-time great fighter. Fuck the EPO. EPO Shane Mosley will beat anybody's ass. So Eric B, you're not like Eric B from Eric B and Rakim, are you? Because if you are, thank you for being in the chat, and I loved everything you did. Eric B says Manny Pacquiao got hit way too much, and Mayweather was timing Pacquiao immediately in that fight. Don't get me wrong, Manny is great, but there's levels. You are, everything you said is correct, but Mayweather and Manny, they weren't really at their best by the time they fought. Mayweather probably still would have won. I think he still would have won, but yeah, you're right. It would have just been a more high-speed version of what happened when they did fight. And they both were still pretty good when they did fight. Still great fighters, but not really in their peak or prime. But still, they were the two best welterweights when they threw down, so it still mattered. Tank versus Chavez all the way, says Don Julio. Yeah, I mean, I'd give the edge to Chavez. Tank, one guy's an all-time legend, the other guy's still proving himself, but also Don Julio. Go back to the Esau Cruz fight. Esau Cruz keeping a tight high guard, keeping that chin tucked, tight high guard, and constantly applying pressure on Tank, gave Tank his most competitive 12-round fight. Made it a close fight. I know Tank injured his left hand, but you look at the success Esau Cruz had with Tank, you definitely think Julio Cesar Chavez would have been able to take it a step or two or three further. I don't think and with the kind of chin Chavez has, you're not going to be able to throw 20 punches per round and then bank on knocking him out with a big sequence at some point. His chin's gonna hold up. Yeah, I think Chavez would have beat Tank. Yeah, I do. Marshall Z says, "Yo, love for giving Shane his credit. Don't hear it often enough." That's facts, bro. Shane, he's like been reduced to the guy that hurt Floyd in the second round, and it's like, whoa. Shane Mosley's one of the greatest fighters of all time. He's so good that he really, the highest compliment I could give him is he earned and deserved being the third Sugar. That's how good he was. And fun fact about Sugar Shane, he started the decade of the 2000s as the welterweight champion. The year 2000 kicked off with him beating Oscar De La Hoya at Staples Center to become the lineal welterweight champion. By the decade's end, 2009, guess who the lineal number one welterweight was? Shane Mosley. He started and bookended the 2000s as the welterweight champion, something people don't bring up enough. And poetically enough, did it against a Mexican in Staples Center. Oscar was Chicano, Margarito was from Tijuana, but did it against a Mexican in Staples Center, both times. Legendary career by Sugar Shane Mosley, one of the all-time greats. Let's see here. Dane Sampson, do you think in 2014 Pacquiao would have beaten Brook? Oof. By 2014, Pacquiao had already, he was still a furious fighter. But yeah, Pacquiao was no longer getting knockouts at that point. He had been knocked out by Marquez. Brook has had a great jab, and Brook could walk you into shots like he showed against Sean. But as much as I love Sean, Pacquiao is Pacquiao. That'd have been a hell of a fight, man. That'd have been a hell of not so much a hell of a fight. It'd been a very tough fight for Pacquiao. You know what? If Jeff Horn could get it done on home turf, Kell Brook probably could have too. If Manny would have went overseas, he probably would have lost that fight at that point in time in 2014. Probably would have lost that fight overseas. Now, if Kell comes over here, if Kell has to suffer through the Golovkin fight, not even just Spence, but Golovkin, and then comes back down to welterweight, a little bit more of an even playing field, because now instead of him being absolutely in his prime and his peak against the older Pacquiao, it'd be 2014. If Manny would have went to England, I'm tempted to say Brook would have pulled it off because Horn was able to pull it off at home. So, yeah. But, in his prime, Pacquiao smokes Kell Brook. Yeah. Let's see. Nuh-uh. I didn't know that, BT. The FightHype. I'm just Sean. The FightHype said Caleb Andre Ward all day. They worked before, and I saw some of it. Oh, you saw the sparring, huh? But to be fair, BT, Bivol was in the prospect stages, right? He's a much better fighter now. What do you think about that? Let's see. As a French, proud of what Michalad did last night, says Stephen Gallo, and you should be. What a chin and what a body too. She had to withstand bombs to the left hooks to the body. She got up from those 2 knockdowns. I do think she escaped by not getting dropped a 3rd time. I thought that right uppercut, she was off balance, but I thought Baumgardner maybe deserved a 3rd knockdown on a right uppercut late in the fight. But she was so game, so tough, Michalid. Tough fighter, man. When Baumgardner moves up eventually, she may find herself a world champion at 130. Having to go up against Delphine Persoon and Baumgardner, those are 2 tough tasks. Hopefully she gets a shot at a title where it's not against a killer. She'll wind up on the winning side of things. Weedy Gonzalez, exactly. Michalid and Cruz showed both a heart, even though they both lost. And to me, Cruz may have actually deserved a draw or eked it out, just how I saw it. Dane Sampson, was Pacquiao faster than Khan or the other way around? Oof. Khan's speed, just pure hand speed. He didn't really have great timing. He would throw 6 or 7, 8 punches when he really should have just thrown 2 or 3 because he'd stay there. And I talked in the beginning of the stream about combination punching being a lost art with some of the American fighters like Shakur and Richardson. The Mayweather era has made them want to sharpshoot more and throw 2 or 3 punches max. And part of why is because if you do what Amir Khan would do every time, throwing 6, 7, 8 punch combinations, that's when you get caught with the counter. But he just did it too many times. I remember when he fought Danny Garcia, I was yelling, he's gonna get caught. He's gonna get caught. I knew Danny was about to catch him with the hook because he was staying in there too long. Instead of ping, 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 and then out, reset, back to your movement and set it up again, he was ping, ping, ping. Boom! And it's like you are asking to get countered at some point. Anyways, so with all that said, is even though Khan would Teddy Atlas says run red lights, he's the king of running red lights with his hand speed. But Khan's speed was special, extremely special. Terrence Crawford and Bo Mack talk shit that he wasn't that fast against us. Bud was faster than him, but I don't think you guys fought a prime Amir Khan. I think Khan in his prime is one of the fastest pairs of hands I've ever seen. So is Pacquiao. Pure speed, I might actually edge it to Khan. And Pacquiao had blazing hand speed too. Pacquiao had better accuracy, way better punching power, and much more awkward, harder angles to get away from than Khan. But in terms of just pure speed, Khan might have had it over just about anybody. Yeah. Marshall Z, Khan had the speed, but quality of punches was way worse, right? Lil Brenny, what's Robezy's ceiling, in your opinion? I think his ceiling is the king of 126. I think he's really turned the corner with Ismail Salas as a pro. That transition from amateur to pro is really becoming solidified now. The way he's punching with that left hand, he's sitting on it like the big boys, like the pro game. And he's a great athlete, great coordination. I think Robezy could become the king at 26. You know, it's wide open at 126. Ray Vargas, moved up and vacated. Stevenson, Valdez, Navarrete, they're all long gone. The division's wide open. I think Robezy could become king at 26. So he slowed down after Canelo. Exactly, Wilson. I agree. Exactly. Great call. Great call. Canelo was his last hurrah in terms of a prime Khan. Totally agree with you. Yep. And we thought his prime was done before that, but Virgil Hunter brought him back to life, and his best one of his best performances was that Devin Alexander fight in 2015. Then out of nowhere, he cashes in on a Canelo fight, gets knocked out, fought great in that fight for as long as it lasted. But you are on the money, Wilson. Triple X says, can the Cool Boy beat the Monster in Japan? He's going to have to win probably 8 rounds minimum if he's going to get a decision. He can't win a fight 115, 113, even if it's like my man Eric Morales in that first fight with Manny Pacquiao. When it was 7-5, it was close, but it was clear Morales won that fight 7-5. It was the all-time clearest 115, 113 I ever saw was Morales Pacquiao won. It was so there was no other way to score that fight. So he's not going to get a decision in Japan. He may not even get a decision winning 8 rounds. He may actually have to win 9 rounds. I don't think he's going to win that fight. I thought that fight was 50-50, and then once it got signed, I said, you know what, my gut says give the edge to Inoue. He has a little bit of that Pacquiao factor where you could touch him up, take advantage of his aggressiveness, outbox him, but then when he lands, when his burst comes, it offsets all that good work you've done, and the round kind of just got stolen from you because when he touches you, it hurts, and the judges see that. So I'm going to give the edge to Inoue fighting at home against Fulton. But Fulton is, if he's not top 10 pound for pound, he's right there on the cusp. He is the best 122 pounder. He's I think, potentially actually a great fighter. So this is the final test for Inoue's pound for pound status, in my opinion. He could beat this guy who's tough from Philly, can fight on the inside, super fast on the outside, versatile all-around fighter, and you're moving up in weight to face him. If Inoue can get past the Fulton challenge, he'll have answered all questions as far as I'm concerned about his pound-for-pound status. And then if Fulton wins, then, GDDD said, you are crazy. Fulton is all-around better than Inoue. Fulton is a better pure boxer than Inoue, but I'm not sure he's actually faster than Inoue. Inoue, I think their hand speed's about even. They have a different type of style of punching. Inoue is definitely the bigger puncher, and Inoue is a great athlete. Just because Fulton is the slick American fighter with great hand speed doesn't mean Inoue doesn't have gifts too. He's very athletic of feet and hand. Inoue gets hit. When you bring ass, you're gonna get some too. He could come in. But I don't think Stephen Fulton's a better body puncher than Inoue. He doesn't have every category other than, it's not just power for Inoue and everything else for Fulton. No. It's going to be a tremendous matchup. So we'll see. But I don't count Fulton out. Fulton is a tremendous boxer, tremendous fighter, not just boxer. The Angelo Leo fight, the Brandon Figueroa fight, he had to show that Philadelphia dog. So we know we know Stephen Fulton, Cool Boy Steph, could thug it out on the inside, or he could box your ears off on the outside. So Inoue by far has his toughest task on his hands. He'll have his hands full. But I think fighting at home and that explosiveness he has, it can offset long stretches of good work from Fulton. Inoue gets hit a lot, actually. I said that. He does get hit a lot. Why do I think the Japanese would give Fulton a break? They called Franco versus Ioka a draw, says Warpspeed. You're right. They are honorable out there in Japan, aren't they? And I do think, even if Inoue got the decision and it was like a gift or controversial, I think all the fans in Japan would hold him accountable, and the media in Japan would hold him accountable. That's kind of how they get down out there. Very honorable country. And I think they would tell Inoue, even if he walks out the victor, you lost that fight. So for Stephen Fulton, the judges are going to do what they're going to do. Don't fight out of your game plan trying to further persuade the judges. Box your fight. If at the end of the day they don't give you the decision when most people felt you won the fight, you will still be a winner in the public's eyes. You'll probably get a lucrative rematch, another payday. And I think the media in Japan will hold Inoue accountable if it goes down like that. So for Fulton, Don't throw an extra hook or two that you wouldn't. Don't stay in the kitchen a little longer than you normally would have because you're saying I'm on the road. I mean, if you can in a smart way, do that. But what I'm saying is don't do too much of what you normally wouldn't do if you were fighting in America. That's how you could wind up getting knocked out potentially. Or I could be wrong. Him stepping on that gas a little further could make sure he doesn't get robbed. But I'm leaning more towards just fight your fight. If you come up short on the cards, but the public thought you won, it's still your stock's gonna go up, and you'll probably get a lucrative rematch. And the media in Japan will hold him accountable. They won't just say he won, and we're running off with the belts, and that's it, and that's all. Who would have won between Thurman versus Bradley, 147 prime for prime? Asked Dane Sampson. Thurman's certainly the more talented fighter. Definitely the harder puncher. The natural welterweight. Bradley really was at his best at 140, beating up Lamont Peterson and beating Devin Alexander. But although his best performance came against Marquez at 47, Bradley's more of a dog than Keith Thurman. He's a dog. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. He's an overachiever. He doesn't have the punching power or the explosiveness that Keith Thurman had. Keith is a more natural welterweight, a more gifted fighter. But Tim Bradley ain't gonna beat himself. And Keith Thurman didn't fight 12 rounds of a fight. He would pick 7 or 8 rounds out of his own mouth. This is what he would tell you. He would pick 7 or 8 rounds to win and kind of pace himself the other rounds. Bradley is a dog. He's gonna throw a bunch of punches. He's gonna bring the pressure to Thurman. And with the kind of chin Bradley has, there's a good chance even Thurman with his power isn't going to drop Bradley, isn't going to knock Bradley out. So this is going to go to 12 rounds, and Bradley might out-hustle him and out-fight him in a 12-round fight. I'm sorry, Dane. I don't... Shit. I still want to give the edge to Keith Thurman. Yeah. Because as much of a dog Bradley is, Thurman's no bitch. He's got heart. He's got a champion heart, too. I think Bradley's has got more, but Keith has it, too. But Keith has such an advantage in punch and power, and Bradley wasn't slow. He was athletic too, but I think Keith was more athletic than him. I'll give the edge to Thurman, but I wouldn't have been surprised if Bradley just dogged it out and would have won that fight too. Let's see. Who said that? Tokello Pisto says, when Fulton beats Inoue, I expect all you clowns that claim this guy is pound for pound number one to give Fulton his credit. He'd definitely get a lot of credit from me. He's already gotten credit from me. I've already been, enamored with him as a fighter. He's one of my favorites actually fighting today because he'll fight anybody. He's already fought a bunch of undefeated fighters. He's a complete fighter. He's an excellent boxer, but then he's from Philly. So if you force him to bite down and fight, he's a dog. So yeah, Fulton is definitely on the cusp of being recognized as one of the best pound for pound. If he beats Inoue, he'll be good to go. There will be no way they keep him out of that pound for pound. And then on the flip side, for me, Inoue, the resume hasn't been enough to get him the number one pound for pound. I think he's definitely top 5. But if he were to beat Fulton, that's the best thing he could do to say I'm the best fighter in the world, is move up to 22 and beat Fulton. He does that, he is number one pound for pound in my eyes. So we'll see. What do I think of Hitchens? We touched on him earlier, Teach. Very good performance, great jab. What a piston jab he had. And won every round, picked it up in the second half, started to put some shots together, power shots together. Really is a player at 140, but we still got to see how he takes a shot, and still would like to see maybe some combinations here and there. But Richardson Hitchens had an excellent job last night, and he's definitely a player at 140. So I think Dane Sampson says, who do I think would have won in their prime? Donaire versus Inoue when Donaire was in his prime. I got Donaire. I think Donaire, towards the end at 122 when he got beat by Rigondeaux, his body was beginning to get out of shape. Under Robert Garcia, he was getting away more and more from all the different things he was capable of and just fell in love with his left hook. And so then it cost him against Rigondeaux, and Rigondeaux, beat him down, really pieced him up. And then Donaire was never quite the same after that. He winds up having that late career renaissance and definitely turned back the clock a little bit, but he didn't really turn back the clock. He reinvented himself as a veteran. But that Donaire that fought Fernando Montiel, that Donaire that fought Vic Darchinyan, he was special. He was special. He's one of the greatest fighters of the last 15, 20 years, pound for pound. Donaire was, if you go back and watch those early fights, he did so much more with his feet. He threw the right hand a lot more. He had a monster right hand, not just the left hook. And he was unorthodox. He would punch and pivot off these crazy angles. And when you look at how much trouble he gave Inoue as an old man, I think as great as Inoue is, Donaire was better. He was a little more tricky. Inoue too has shown the ability to counterpunch. It's just you're not going to see Inoue counterpunch a whole lot, because how many guys are trying to go after Inoue and to where he can now fight on the back foot? He's too busy fighting on the front foot because these guys know better. They're trying to box him. But that said, I think Donaire's feet were better than Inoue's. I think he was a little more unorthodox and dynamic and creative, very creative in his prime. And then heading into the Rigondeaux fight, he began to just fall in love with that left hook, and that was all she wrote. But I actually think Donaire would have beaten Inoue in his prime at 118. All right, so I think on that we'll call it a day. Triple X, what's Brandon Lee's potential? How far can he go? He's definitely a player at 140. Defensively, he'll have to sharpen up on that front foot. I think he's a little too predictable and easy to hit coming forward, but I love his explosiveness, punching power. And remember, explosiveness isn't just power. That means you got some speed with the shot too, and he does. But he's become a little easy to figure out, and he'll have to continue to maybe watch a guy like Canelo Alvarez, who's so good at being hard to hit while being on the front foot. So I think he's as good a puncher as there is at 140. I would love to see him and Gary Antoine Russell mix it up at PBC down the line. He's for sure a player and a contender, but we'll see if he gets to the top. King Kong Clips, I can't believe you box. I don't box anymore. I had a little back in the day, but nothing in many, many years. Is Gary Antoine Russell overrated? Depends how high you rate him. I think he definitely has a good chance of taking over the division at some point. He does get hit coming in, but he has a pressure fighter's DNA. He's relentless. He's not afraid to get hit. He has the kind of explosiveness as an athlete to cut the distance. He reminds me a little bit of Sean Porter, except Sean at this stage was a little bit better with his movement, had a better jab than Gary Antoine has, but Gary Antoine's a better puncher than Sean ever was. But he has that Sean Porter pressure fighter in him. So, no, I don't think he's overrated. I think he's a very good 140. He's one of the favorites to eventually take over the division. So, no, I don't think so. But maybe he's overrated if you think he's going to be the next pound-for-pound superstar. King Kong Clip says, you're good. You actually see boxers fight up close. Thank you, King Kong. Yeah, you go home every now and then. When I used to be around Devin's camp a lot, every fighter I've been around, you can't help but try some things out when you get home. Devin would impress me because he could be real up close and not need to create space to get everything on his jab, and it was impressive. He'd kind of drop that bottom weight. He wouldn't have to move his feet. He just really anchor himself with that back weight. Boom, boom, up close on the little things you learn from guys. Am I still on the Porter podcast? Not all the time, but you'll still see me on there throughout the year. Those are my guys. I love them. So but we are trying to establish our thing here as well. But I love them guys. That's the best podcast in the game. And I'm blessed that they even let me still come on sometimes. And anytime I go on there, I love it. So, Dane Sampson said, would I actually go to Japan and do a live round-by-round coverage of an... Hell, yes. I'm in the process of trying to make it happen. My wife set us up February 16th. We got to go see the people for our passports. I don't have a passport. Never been out the country. So, yeah, man, if all goes according to plan, I'll be calling that fight ringside live with a round-by-round live for you folks. That'll be awesome. And, shit, you know, I might actually lose money flying out there instead of making money off the fight. But it's an experience. I figure if I'm ever going to... I've always wanted to go to Japan. Y'all know I'm a gamer. I got the Sega Dreamcast right behind me. So I want to try out those famous arcade. I want to see Japan. I want to see what it's like. What better way to see what it's like with a great fight like Inoue and Fulton? I hope I get to call that ringside with you guys. Cesar Nava says, yes, Oshaki is the fighter that Shakur used to talk about being really good along with Keisha. Okay, thank you, Caesar. Damn, Caesar, you either rewinded an hour back or you've been here since the beginning and then remembered to do some research and confirm. Thank you either way. You are going to love Japan. I was there in December, says Teach. That's what I hear, man. My boy Andy Rojas, who works on the Porter Way, my man from New York, he's out there right now, and he said it's amazing. It's amazing that you got to be there to see it. So, Hawcom says March and April going to be lit for fights. Indeed. Benavides Plant, Tank and Ryan, Harrison and Zoo. Dane Sampson says, would you be a trainer if given, Sean? You know, it's funny. I actually, for a very short period, helped Kenny Porter get some of his prospects ready for a fight. Man, these guys, it's tough. When you hold in the mitts and holding the body bag for legit pros, I don't know how these old men do it, man. That shit wears down on your body. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how these old-ass trainers are holding the mitts for these fighters and not physically deteriorating. It's harder than it looks. Devin Haney once told me maybe you should think about training fighters, but no, my problem is I can't show you enough. You know, it's one thing to tell the guy you got to do this, but you have to be able to show them. And when it comes to counter punching, the only thing I could, like when I train my son Leonardo, the only thing I'm really going to be able to teach him is the most basic of the basics. You know, jab, straight right hand, left hook, keep your hands up. I don't even really know that good a head movement. The only thing I ever really learned how to do was the catch, and then drop your elbows down to catch some body shots and do. So yeah, no, I would never be a trainer then. You got to know your lane. I'm a media guy. So yeah. All right, let's call it a day on that. Thank you guys, everybody. I'm gonna go hang out with the family, go pick up my boy, play some Undisputed on this lovely, sad Sunday because the 49ers got eliminated last week. But I want to thank everyone who rocked with us. We had about 100 people in the chat throughout. You guys are awesome. I hope you enjoyed me blabbing on, trying to keep getting better at this thing. We got to up our production values. I know you guys don't want to see a 30-year-old CRT TV with a Sega Dreamcast behind me. And, I know we all love NFL Blitz, but I probably do got to step the production value up at some point. But first things first, before you come up with a logo and colors and branding, just actually be good at what you're doing. And I think we got that down at least, the foundation. So thank you guys, everybody. Marky Les says, stream your games later. Marky, check out the Sugar Ray Leonard Terrence Crawford. We just posted it up. I got you. I got to take a day off from the live stream. It's too stressful. I'm gonna play some casual matches today.